tonight. How the Canada Post strike is affecting people desperate to get their essential documents. Regina's new city council wastes no time making big decisions at its first meeting.
I think people in Regina are amazing.
And we check in with Regina's top cop to hear about his first full year on the job.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Wednesday, December 11th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams in for Sam McCagg. Thanks for joining us. The two sides in the Canada Post strike appear farther apart than ever, with the company saying the most recent offer by the union takes major steps backwards. And as Alexander Silberman shows us, that is cause for concern for those whose essential documents are now caught in the middle.
My package was delivered to this very postal location.
Yi Ching Huang tracked her passport to this shuttered Toronto post office. It's stuck inside with no way to get it, and a trip for her wedding reception is just weeks away.
Yeah, it's devastating at this point.
Huang is a permanent resident with a Chinese passport that contains visas that are challenging to replace. And there's no resolution in sight after the latest proposal by the union, delivered Monday, was described as a setback by Canada Post.
I feel sorry for the workers. They have to go on strike at this point of year, but then it's also very frustrating for people like us waiting for important documents.
While Huang is currently out of luck, there are some options for Canadian passport holders. Service Canada has held about 185,000 passports since December 1st. They're available for pickup for an extra $20. But it's not just passports.
We think that all options should be in place.
While some federal benefits, including the Canada Pension Plan, are still being delivered, most provincial program checks need to be picked up. That's troubling to this advocate.
Certainly for people who have mobility issues or distance issues, it becomes a real barrier to getting what are absolutely necessary benefits for survival purposes.
Canada Post says mail stuck at distribution centers like this one will be delivered on a first-in, first-out basis when operations resume. But it adds Canadians will continue to feel the impact of the strike long after it's over. Alexander Silberman, CBC News, Regina.
Regina's new city council has tackled its first meeting with an actual agenda, and it's resulted in some serious policy decisions. Alexander Kwan has the latest from City Hall.
Regina City Council was sworn in just a few weeks ago, but the new councillors and mayor are already making some significant decisions. One big one, passing an advanced version of the 2025 city budget. It means $92 million in general capital projects and $131 million in utility fund capital projects have already been approved. The vote may have been unanimous, but that doesn't mean some councillors didn't have concerns. One of the sticking points was a $15 million price tag to fix a collapsed stormwater pipe and repair a sinkhole just off the Albert Street Bridge.
And it is in the park, and I guess my thinking is to, maybe we should be going back, I think, to the province, because they are partners in the park, for possible funding on something like that.
But as staff explained to the new council, the province believes park infrastructure is still the responsibility of the city. That means the province won't lend a hand. Council will take a full look at the budget in March.
Council also decided to retroactively reduce the rent for the Saskatchewan Roughriders' use of Mosaic Stadium. There was no CFL season in 2020, and the season was shortened in 2021 due to the COVID-19 pandemic, which resulted in decreased revenue for the team. But they still owe a $3.6 million rental bill for the stadium. After a long discussion, that bill was cut by $1.3 million.
Both parties have agreed that this is a reasonable compromise. And as far as the riders are concerned, this is as reasonable as it gets before it would move on to a court case.
Still, at least one veteran councillor was unhappy with the decision because she says everyone suffered during the pandemic, not just the riders.
I'm finding it very difficult to support this request, and based on what I've heard from my residents, I don't believe I will be supporting it.
In the end, the motion was passed in a vote of 9-2. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
Unexpected renovations are driving up the cost of Saskatoon's new downtown emergency shelter, and the city might have to pick up the bill. The province is leasing this building from the city to use as a temporary shelter. It has also given the city $250,000 to renovate it. But now mechanical and electrical work is more extensive than planned, and the province hasn't committed to pay more. City Council is set to vote Thursday on whether to cover the extra $360,000 needed through its reserve fund. The 35-bed shelter is set to open next year. A family is speaking out after an 84-year-old Indigenous man from Pasqua First Nation had his braids cut off at Royal Alexandra Hospital in Edmonton. They say they found Dexter Adams' braids in the garbage when he was a patient there in May. Adams passed away in hospital 5 weeks after it happened. His niece, Kathleen Crow, spoke at an NDP news conference in Edmonton Tuesday.
The cutting of my uncle's hair caused all of us great emotional and spiritual harm. It also evoked past cultural trauma that my uncle, his family, and community experienced throughout their lives.
Alberta Health Services expressed regret for the incident and says it met and apologized to Adams and his loved ones. In response to the incident, they also held 3 in-person sessions on the cultural significance of hair for Indigenous people. AHS says policies require informed consent before the cutting of hair, and an investigation was completed, but the results are confidential as it's an HR matter. Students and educators at the University of Regina are feeling left out. That's because the university is canceling its linguistics degree program. And that's raising concerns in a province already facing a shortage of speech-language pathologists. Aishwarya Duda reports.
Students at the University of Regina can no longer sign up for a degree in linguistics. The university is discontinuing the program and will offer a minor instead. A linguistics degree is the preferred pathway to a master's degree and a career in speech pathology, a profession in high demand in Saskatchewan, and we have a shortage of speech pathologists in this province. They play an important role, especially in classrooms for kids with learning disabilities. The decision comes as the University of Saskatchewan works to launch the province's first master's program in speech-language pathology in 2026. In June, the government announced $8.1 million to get that program off the ground. Longtime linguistics professor Eric Wolvengray of the First Nations University says cutting the linguistics program at the U of R is a lost opportunity.
The burden of the entire program has been on First Nations University for quite some time now, and there's been very little in the way of active support through the entire university. It's been First Nations University carrying the entire thing.
Wolvengray says instead of a linguistics degree, FNU will offer an Indigenous language reclamation program that will focus on preserving and teaching Indigenous languages. University student Haley Van Wert says she was unable to register for a class at the U of R that's a prerequisite to apply for the speech pathology master's program.
Now I enrolled in a class like that at the U of A, University of Alberta, an online class that is much more expensive than a class would be at the U of R. I mean, I have to I have to enroll in the U of A, I have to put a $500 down deposit, and then the class that I'm taking is even more expensive than like their typical classes at that institution.
While the transition at First Nations University reflects a focus on Indigenous language preservation, the move leaves a gap for students pursuing careers in speech-language pathology. Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Saskatoon's Cree Bilingual School, set to open in a new location next year, finally has a new name.
The new name is Awasisa Ganimitochik St. Francis School. Live those things every
Awasisa Ganimitochik is St. Francis School. Awasisa means speak to children, and Ganimitochik means northern lights. Together it means the children that dance. It was announced Wednesday afternoon at a special family dinner event. The name was chosen from 135 options in both Cree and English. The bilingual school is a partnership between Greater Saskatoon Catholic Schools and the Saskatoon Tribal Council. When complete, its new building will have space for 700 students from pre-kindergarten to grade 9. It will have a powwow ground on site, as well as a breakfast and lunch program, an elders teaching room, medicine lab, and 70 childcare spaces. It's expected to cost $46 million to build and will open next September. Well, the pictures here really don't do justice just to how cold it is, although you can probably tell by how slowly that steam is coming out of the buildings in downtown Regina. We are in for another day of this cold, unfortunately, but there is light at the end of this cold, dark tunnel. I'll have a look at your full forecast when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. A little more than a year ago, Regina Police Service got a brand new police chief. Farouk Sheikh is an outsider to the force and to Regina. Alexander Kwan brings us a look back at his first year in charge.
I think people in Regina are amazing. I love working here, I love the city, and I get to work with some great people.
That's Regina Police Chief Farouk Sheikh describing the place he now calls home. Sheikh was sworn in last December, at that time promising to learn more about operations before making any changes. He brought with him experience with England's community policing model. About 7 months in, he introduced what he calls all-out days.
Once a month, I and all my senior officers and majority of police service that don't normally go out and patrol will go out and patrol. It's an opportunity for me to understand what the staff do, and also an opportunity to understand what the community want. And the amount of people we've interacted with is phenomenal. The engagement we do is phenomenal, and they love hearing it and seeing it.
We get people stealing from here all the time.
Sheikh hears the concerns about safety in downtown Regina. He knows the goal downtown is revitalization, so he pushed for the launch of 11 alternative response officers, or AROs, and he wants more.
So I understand the benefits of it, and what it does, it helps us interact, engage, build partnerships, and networks for our communities that are vulnerable.
As of mid-December, there have been 5 homicides in Regina this year, the lowest number since 2014. Sheikh credits his homicide team. They've solved nearly every case they've been assigned in the past 4 years.
I think some of that, because we're taking people off the street, we're apprehending people, we're charging them, they get in prison for homicide. If they were out, potentially they could have killed a few more people.
Also new under Sheikh, biometric monitoring in police cells, bringing officers real-time data on the breath and heart rate of prisoners.
We had a lady within 3 days that she'd only just got into custody, and we'd done a thorough search on her, so she had nothing untoward on her, but within 15 minutes she stopped breathing. We wouldn't have picked up on that because she looks like she was asleep under the blanket, but the biometric picked up on that. So we've saved the lives of at least 5 people.
It's been received so well that Regina police are being interviewed by U.S. publications about its success, a sign that Sheikh is taking to heart. He says more change is on the way in 2025. Alexander Kwan, CBC News, Regina.
The weather update is brought to you by Capital Ford Lincoln. Year-end clearance is on now.
Only word to sum up this weather, brr. It is frigid across our province, or at least many spots of it. Here's a live look at Saskatoon, where well, traffic has slowed down in the city this evening as this cold weather takes hold. And we had a very cold morning for many parts of the province. We'll take a look now at just how cold it was in some parts of the province. To start Wednesday, got down to near minus 40 in Key Lake, but with just a little bit of wind, feeling closer to minus 44. Stony Rapids besting that, feeling like minus 45 at times early Wednesday morning. Even parts of east central Saskatchewan and through the Parkland region below minus 30 for overnight lows, which translated into wind chills below minus 40. And tonight, those temperatures likely going to drop even further. Regina and Saskatoon have now been added to that extreme cold warning, as well as Prince Albert. Places like Yorkton and Moosomin and Melfort continued under that warning, and we're seeing overnight temperatures minus 30 to 35. Wind chills possibly getting as close to minus 45 in some spots. Even colder in far northern Saskatchewan, where warnings have also been expanded up there. Temperatures minus 35 to minus 40, some wind chills near minus 50 as we head overnight Wednesday into Thursday. This was the best we did for temperatures today across the province. Didn't even get above minus 30 in Collins Bay and Stony Rapids. But look at southwestern Saskatchewan, Maple Creek, much warmer today, around minus 7. And you notice Alberta is not partaking in our misery with these cold temperatures, and that is because we have a weather system that's been moving through Alberta and into parts of southwestern Saskatchewan that's been bringing some snow, and that has been boosting temperatures. You can kind of see where that line is, where the colder temperatures are, where we have clear skies in that area of high pressure that you see there. Overnight into Thursday, that area of high pressure going to slowly start to move out. Again, the skies will clear, making for those very cold conditions overnight. But through the day Thursday, we start to see a bit of a change, especially as we get into Thursday night into Friday. Cloud cover building in. That is going to warm up our temperatures as that system from Alberta moves some warmer weather our way, albeit it'll bring some cloudier conditions for the next couple of days, especially as we head toward Friday. That system is also going to be bringing in some pretty breezy winds at times, especially as we head into Friday. But you'll notice from the arrows there, those winds are coming primarily from the south. So that is ushering in some much warmer southerly air. And in addition to that, that big parcel of cold air that we've been seeing dominating our weather picture begins to move away, and we see some warmer temperatures taking over. Just how much warmer? Well, you'll notice after a day with a wind chill near minus 35 on Thursday, Regina will bump up to minus 10 Friday, and then we just keep warming up to Sunday, although we do drop back to more seasonal conditions as we start next week. Similar picture for Saskatoon as we start to see minus single-digit temperatures, even getting near freezing in parts of especially western Saskatchewan as we head toward the end of the weekend. Well, the entertainer known as the Amazing Kreskin has died. He mesmerized generations of TV watchers with his tricks. Magda Gabrasalasa describes his magic.
In the prime of his career, the man known as the Amazing Kreskin mystified audiences, entertained fans of all ages, and became the model for generations of future mentalists.
There you are, ladies and gentlemen, the very card you follow. Four of diamonds.
George Kresge Jr.'s interest in appearing to read people's minds was sparked at the age of 9, followed by years spent honing his craft, using psychology and body language to read people's thoughts.
It's the unconscious, really, that's 90% of our thinking, and that's what I tap into.
More suggestible in groups.
In the 70s, he lit up TV screens with shows like The Amazing World of Kreskin. Shot in Canada, it also played in the U.S.
I still have my Kreskin board game.
Fellow mentalist and magician Daniel Paulin grew up watching Kreskin.
I can't read your mind, but I'm going to make you think that I can. And I don't think there was a better person, a better master at the ESP and mind reading than Kreskin.
His talent was a big draw for late-night talk shows. The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson had him on nearly 90 times. He popped up on David Letterman's show, too.
Talk show hosts love guests who come to entertain. It's like a night off for them. And so Kreskin was the perfect guest because he had his act and people were amazed.
Comedians like Jim Carrey did impersonations of the mentalist.
It just would grow into total manic, insane energy. And it used to crack people up.
The social media post announcing the entertainer's death stated performing for all of you brought immense joy to his life, and it was something he deeply cherished. The Amazing Kreskin was 89 years old.
Goodbye, everybody.
Magda Gabrasalasa, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, poinsettias are red and Christmassy. The plant is originally from Mexico, and its Spanish name translates to Christmas Eve. Producers in Mexico City use traditional methods to grow them on floating gardens. Customers come from far away to buy the plants from greenhouses near canals. It's a local tradition to adorn homes, churches, and even roads with this sea of red during the holiday season. Stay with us. We're back after the break. If you have any made good granola bars in your kitchen cupboards, you need to hear this. The company is recalling several batches because the bars may have metal fragments in them. The affected flavors include the ones you see on your screen, including the Made Good Variety Pack. Also being recalled are some of the chocolate drizzled flavors. All were manufactured from January to November of this year and sold across Canada. Specific details of this recall are on our website, cbcnews.ca. A major wildfire fanned by strong winds continues to burn out of control in Southern California.
Weather conditions, including strong winds and low humidities, will be closely monitored today as they will play a critical role in fire behavior.
Officials say the wildfire burning in Malibu is still less than 7% contained, but say the dry Santa Ana winds that are fueling it are starting to die down. The fire has forced tens of thousands of people from their homes in the wealthy enclave near Los Angeles. About 1,500 firefighters continue to battle the fire, which started Monday night. And of course, the story here continues to be the extreme cold that we are facing. Again, temperatures through eastern parts of South and Central tonight dropping to minus 30, perhaps minus 35, feeling closer to minus 40, minus 45 in the far north, where we have extreme cold warnings in effect for far north central and northeastern sections. It'll be feeling it sometimes closer to minus 45, perhaps minus 50, especially if you're in places like Cree Lake, Stony Rapids, Wollaston Lake. Tomorrow, we're not getting much of an improvement in that part of the province, but you notice that cloud cover starting to move in there by the afternoon. That's going to improve temperatures along western sides of the north. For south and central, we see that cloud cover already through parts of southwestern Saskatchewan, and that'll make for another day where we see temperatures quite widespread, only into the minus mid-single digits in the southwest, still though back into the minus 20s, far into the minus 20s in parts of eastern Saskatchewan. And that is it for us tonight. For news anytime, you can always head to our website, cbc.ca/sask. Subscribe to our CBC Saskatchewan YouTube channel or download and use the CBC News app. Thanks for watching. Have a great night.